Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Renuka and with me is Nishit Kumar, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterates that India would continue to stand with friendly people of Sri Lanka. International Court of Justice directs that Russia must immediately suspend its military operations in Ukraine. Council of Europe expels Russia from human rights body over its military operation in Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says business-like spirit is emerging at talks with Ukraine. Powerful earthquake jolts northeastern Japan. Tsunami alert issued. COVID vaccination for children aged 12 to 14 years and precaution dose for people above 60 years of age begins in India. Hockey India announces 22-member men's team to take on Argentina for upcoming FIH Men's Hockey Pro League doubleheader in Bhubaneswar. And India wins bid to host FIDE Chess Olympia 2022 in Chennai. As we start the bulletin, we appeal to our listeners to stay safe from COVID-19 by following these 4 simple steps. Get fully vaccinated, wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reiterated that India would continue to stand with the friendly people of Sri Lanka. Mr. Modi was speaking to Finance Minister of Sri Lanka, Basil Rajapaksa, who called on him in New Delhi on Wednesday. Mr. Modi spoke about the central role that Sri Lanka occupies in India's neighbourhood first policy and its Sagar, security and growth for all in the region doctrine. The Prime Minister pointed to the potential for increasing tourist flows, including through joint promotion of Buddhist and Ramayana tourism circuits. Mr. Rajapaksa briefed the Prime Minister on initiatives being taken by both the countries to increase bilateral economic cooperation and conveyed his thanks for the support extended by India for the Sri Lankan economy. The Sri Lankan Finance Minister noted that the deepening people-to-people relations between both the countries, including in the cultural sphere. Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla called on the visiting Finance Minister in New Delhi. They discussed bilateral economic and commercial cooperation and opportunities post-pandemic. Mr. Shringla said Sri Lanka is integral to India's neighbourhood first policy. He said India will always be a reliable partner for Sri Lanka. The International Court of Justice ICJ at The Hague on Wednesday directed that Russia must immediately suspend its military operations in Ukraine. The court ordered by 13-2 votes. It said the Russian Federation, pending the final decision in the case, must immediately suspend the military operations it commenced in the territory of Ukraine on February the 24th. The court was delivering its verdict on the provisional measures sought by Ukraine in the wake of Russia's ongoing military action in the region. The application moved by the Ukrainian government had accused Russia of carrying out and planning acts of genocide in Ukraine. Oral submissions had been advanced only by Ukraine as Russia had refused to participate in the proceedings. However, subsequently Russia has responded to the case instituted by Ukraine via a written document filed before the Nation Security Council, UNSC, averring that the ICJ lacks jurisdiction in hearing the case. The Council of Europe has expelled Russia from the continent's foremost human rights body in an unprecedented move over its military operation in Ukraine. A report.
The 47-nation organization's Committee of Ministers said in a statement that the Russian Federation ceases to be a member of the Council of Europe after 26 years of membership. The decision comes on the heels of weeks of condemnation of Russia's actions in Ukraine. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba immediately welcomed the decision, posting on Twitter that there is no place for Russia in European bodies as it wages a barbaric war of aggression against Ukraine and commits multiple war crimes. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov insisted that it would have left the body regardless. In an interview with Russian broadcaster RBK, he accused NATO and EU countries of abusing their majority in the Council, eventually transforming it into a tool for anti-Russian policy. Ukraine is also a member of the Council of Europe. Anita Anand for World News.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said a business-like spirit is emerging at talks with Ukraine that are now focused on a neutral status for the war-torn country. Russia's chief negotiator in the latest round of talks with Ukraine, which started on Monday, said the sides are discussing a possible compromise idea for a future Ukraine with a smaller, non-aligned military. There is no immediate comment from Ukrainian officials. It is not clear how such an option would work if the future Ukrainian military remains hostile to Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Tuesday said that the country realizes that it cannot join NATO. Ukraine's bid to join the Western military alliance has been a sore point for Moscow. In India, free-of-cost COVID vaccination for children in the age group of 12 to 14 years began on Wednesday on the occasion of the National Vaccination Day at all the government COVID vaccination centres. Corbevax vaccine is being administered, which is manufactured by Biological E Limited, Hyderabad. People above 60 years of age are also eligible for precaution dose from today, as the condition of comorbidity for this age group has been removed. The precaution dose is to be administered after 9 months after the date of second vaccination. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on a decade of Land Ports Authority of India, transforming India's land ports to smart ports. In conversation are Mrs. Rekha Raikar Kumar, Member Finance, Land Ports Authority of India, Mr. Afaq Hussain, Co-founder and Director Bureau of Research on Industry and Economic Fundamentals, and Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent.
To begin the discussion, we would like to know from you, what is the journey been like the past 10 years for LPAI, and what is the vision and mission of the organization?
The Land Port Authority of India was formed in March 2010 as per the Land Port Authority Act of India. This comes under the Department of Border Management and Ministry of Home Affairs. The assignment that was given to us was to ensure that we should have sufficient land ports which can facilitate the trade across all the land borders of India. We have, as you know, almost 15,000 kilometers of land border, starting from our border with Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. Last 10 years have been really hectic in terms of the journey, but we are happy as an organization that we have attained the critical mass in last 10 years. The vision of LPAI is to increase and promote trade to generate enough employment for the local areas, because border areas are mostly not having any infrastructure in terms of roads, industries, schools, hospitals and proper basis for livelihood. Third one is to boost investment and opportunities for the industries, to boost tourism and travel across the borders and nearby the areas of the border, to enhance the people-to-people contact, then to have more interdependency with our neighbors as per the policy of our Honorable Prime Minister, Look East policy, to have a common market, to have a much more wider range of products across the borders, and to become an efficient bridge of Southeast Asia, as was our golden days of old Silk Route, to bring that prosperity through the land ports. Our mission is to ensure that we become the ambassadors for all practical purposes, sitting on the borders with our neighbors, and to connect people to provide a secure, seamless and efficient systems of cargo and passenger movements.
That's such a comprehensive vision which this organization has, and it's a multifaceted aim that is being pursued. Foremost, what you mentioned was trade, employment, investment. If we come to you, Mr. Hussain, what is the importance of land-based trade in South Asia, and how do you see this vision in future going forward? How do you feel? How will it progress?
Land ports is one of the most important trading instrument in a landlocked environment, particularly when you look at South Asia. South Asia, we have countries like Nepal, Bhutan, which are landlocked. So for them, these borders are their windows to trade with international markets. So when we talk of South Asia traditionally has been one of the least trading region. 5% is what we trade within ourselves if we compare it to European Union, which trades at much higher percent. So 5% is a very, very low percentage. But then these land borders, which are the gateways of goods movement within South Asia. I'll give you an example. For Nepal, most of the bilateral trade for Nepal is with India, and Nepal's trade with other countries also passes through India as a transit because they don't have a seaport. So it comes via ICP in Raxaul and then it goes to Kolkata port or any other port for its forward journey. So that is one example how these land ports are important for our neighborhood first policy. So that's where the importance of these land borders is, because it's not only about what benefit it gives to India, it's also about what is the benefit we're giving to these smaller neighbors that we have. So we need to have these bridges with our neighbors for the economic prosperity. Another point on economic aspects. Based on one of our research, ICP Atari, which was for trade between India and Pakistan, there was 25 crores revenue which was getting generated within the community. There are so many allied employment that gets created. So 25 crores a month. And for a small place in border area, this is a big number. So that's the impact that this border trade has on smaller communities in the border economies.
And what would you say are the challenges, the impediments in the way of trade through land routes?
See, as ma'am said, the journey has just started. They have covered 10 years, but then there are certain challenges which we still face. The first challenge that we face is the digital connectivity. The process of export and import in present times is happening digitally. But in our border areas, in our ICPs and LCSs, we still are following those manual systems of trade. So that needs to be streamlined, and I'm sure there are steps that LPAI is taking to streamline that trade and digitize this trade. The second is the infrastructural aspect, the parking yards, the approach roads that are going towards these ICPs. At a lot of places, they are very well planned, but at some ICPs, we still have those parking yards. It still takes some time. And then the other challenges is also that in some of our ICPs, there is not a mirror ICP on the other side. What I mean by mirror ICP is the kind of infrastructure that I have on Indian side, I need to have a replica infrastructure on other side. So all those things need to be built up. That will definitely help us move towards, as our vision says, smart ports.
Ma'am, turning these land ports into smart ports, as Mr. Hussain outlined, there are various facilities which are required at the land ports and they are available in a big way. So whatever the gaps are there in the infrastructure, he was talking about the mirror infrastructure there. What kind of coordination exercise you feel that the most important, you can say, job of LPI is coordination, as I understand it?
You are absolutely right. In fact, we are also having the mandate on behalf of the Ministry of Commerce. There is one National Trade Facilitation Plan, and that also gives us directions to make it more smooth, seamless and a feel good for the passengers who cross our borders. Other than the directions that we receive from BIMSTEC and the efforts which are going on to have a BBIN wherein the motor cars can seamlessly cross the borders starting from the Myanmar border and even go crossing India further to Afghanistan and Nepal or Bhutan. So the impending land ports, right now we are having about 9 operational land ports. We have 2 at the Pakistan border, namely Atari and Dera Baba Nanak. And we have 2 presently operational on the Nepal border, Raxaul and Jogbani. We have 4 operational on the Bangladesh border, Pedropol, Agartala, Srimantpur and Sutarkandi. But in addition to this, we are right now making efforts to make another 14 operational, so that the ones which are approved by the CCS, all 23 of them become functional. In addition to this, we are also trying to ensure that wherever there are land customs stations, find out which are the ones which are having huge volume, but the infrastructure is not so good. And there is absolutely no facility for the passengers to cross the border because immigration and the pandemic has also played a huge role in affecting the passenger movement as well as the trade movement. So to ensure that, we have coming up with a project wherein 66 such land custom stations will be slowly converted into ICPs in phase A, B and C, so that this whole exercise becomes quite seamless. As Mr. Hussain has rightly pointed out, digitization of the process is one of our main aim. Second, we are also looking at mechanization of our ports. We are also looking at giving a very feel-good factor to the passengers, building the passenger terminals. One we have already built in Dera Baba Nanak. The other one is under construction in Petrapol, and similar exercises are going on in other ports also. Third, we are trying to ensure that with the Customs, Bureau of Immigration, with the plant quarantine, animal quarantine, Agriculture Ministry, Health Ministry, and all other stakeholders, including the state governments, we are trying to weave the circle in such a way that everybody gets benefited. State governments are having a major support to LPAI through Union Home Ministry, and I am very happy to share also that whatever development the Government of India is looking at for the Northeastern region, we are also one of the fulcrum around which this thing will happen. So we will be able to bring the Northeastern part much more closer to the mainland as and when most of these will become functional.
And do you feel that expansion of the network of integrated checkpoints will also help to formalize trade faster and curb smuggling and illegal infiltration from borders?
Definitely, because this infiltration, smuggling has been informal trade within South Asia, always been talked about. And these ICPs come with the proper infrastructure, security mechanisms, which definitely does reduce. And it has been noted by different studies, particularly between India and Bangladesh, where there used to be a lot of informal trade prevalent a few years back. And post ICPs coming at different points between India and Bangladesh, it has definitely reduced that informal trade, infiltration, smuggling, because it moves people towards formalized trade. And the another factor that has been noted after these ICPs were created by Land Ports Authority of India, there has been a significant increase in the trade that has happened through these border points. Earlier when they were LCS, and when you compare that trade with it is converted to ICP, there is a decent increase in the percentages of trade that happens through that checkpoints. So it definitely helps in curbing informal trade, smuggling and other security related risks.
And also the ICPs, that is the integrated checkposts, they play a crucial role also in economic corridors through India's neighbouring countries to beyond, say to Afghanistan, through Pakistan. This could be for humanitarian purpose also, like trucks of wheat which have entered Pakistan and are headed for hunger-stricken Afghanistan. So how do you see this aspect of LPAI?
I think connecting people to people is also one of the important duty that LPAI is doing. As you are aware, the Atari LCS, Land Customs Station, started its trade in 1955. So it has a huge legacy of trade. And Atari border is enabling us to also connect to our neighbors in Afghanistan, because through them, this 50,000 metric ton wheat is being sent to the nation. And we are very happy that we are also playing our role in this good humanitarian task. I would also like to mention that during the pandemic, huge number of the vaccine vials were sent through the land borders, through rail and through road to our neighboring countries like Bangladesh and some to other nations also. So when it comes to helping our neighbors, these ICPs are our major thrust through which we can do that. Second point is also the Dera Baba Nanak. Dera Baba Nanak provides an access through the Kartarpur corridor to all the Sikh religion people to go and do their prayers and come back. In every day, about 5,000 persons can visit and come back, and we can see the smile on their faces, and that is what is our real gain. LPI also has a very huge mandate to provide world-class infrastructure on the borders to boost the local economy, to ensure that they are gender-friendly, the passenger terminals and the staff disabled friendly. They have 24/7 facilities available. They also have multiplier effect to the local economies. And this whole paraphernalia of Land Port Authority of India's different ICPs are actually an effort to spread your hands and to hold the hands of our neighbors in one way.
So borders will no longer be barriers but bridges connecting people and facilitating trade. Thank you so much for your time and for this insightful discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
In Japan, a powerful earthquake of 7.3 magnitude struck the northeastern prefectures of Miyagi and Fukushima on Wednesday evening 7:37 p.m. IST, registering an upper 6 on Japan's Shindo earthquake intensity scale, one step below the top level. The weather agency issued a 1-meter tsunami advisory for the 2 prefectures, calling on local residents to stay away from the seacoast. According to the meteorological agency, the quake struck the coast of Fukushima Prefecture. Authorities warned residents in Fukushima, Miyagi, and Yamagata prefectures to expect aftershocks. The government has set up a task force at the Prime Minister's office, and Prime Minister Fumio Kishida instructed officials to conduct rescue operations in cooperation with government ministries and municipalities. The quake was felt across a swath of Japan, from the northeastern region of Tohoku to the Tokyo metropolitan area and even the Kansai area centering on Osaka Prefecture. The earthquake, which lasted for several minutes in the capital, led to power outages across Tokyo. Part of the city's 23 central wards registered a 4 on the Shindo scale. About 2.3 million homes in the Kanto and Tohoku regions had reportedly lost power. There have been no reports so far of damage at the Onagawa nuclear power plant in Miyagi Prefecture, according to Tohoku Electric Power Company. Hockey India has named the 22-member men's team who will take on Argentina in the upcoming FIH Men's Hockey Pro League doubleheader this weekend at the iconic Kalinga Hockey Stadium in Bhubaneswar, Odisha. Morangthem Ravichandra Singh, who was part of the Indian junior men's squad at the FIH Junior Men's World Cup, will be the lone new face in the team for the matches against Argentina, scheduled for 19th and 20th of this month. The 22-member squad includes goalkeepers P.R. Shrijesh, Krishan Bahadur Pathak, defenders Harmanpreet Singh, Jugrat Singh, Surendra Kumar, Varun Kumar, Jarmanpreet Singh and Amit Rohidas. Midfield will see Manpreet Singh, Vivek Sagar Prasad, Hardik Singh, Sumit Shamsher Singh, Neil Kanta Sharma and debutant Morangthem Ravichandra Singh.
India has won the bid to host the Fides Olympia 2022 in Chennai. It was originally scheduled to be held in Russia, but the FIDE recently announced that it pulled out from there following the Ukraine invasion. After the announcement, Tamil Nadu government and All India Chess Federation made a joint bid to host the prestigious tournament and won. All England Badminton Championships has begun in Birmingham. In the women's singles, Saina Nehwal beat Spanish Beatriz Corrales 21-17, 21-19 in the first round, while the match between PV Sindhu and Wang Zhiyi is underway. In the men's singles, Danish shuttler Victor Axelsen defeated Sai Praneeth 22-20, 21-11 in the first round. Earlier in the women's doubles, pair of Triksha Jolly and Gayatri Gopichan have entered the second round. In the first round, Indian pair defeated Thailand's pair 17-21, 22-20, 21-14. In the men's doubles, Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty began their campaign on a winning note. Indian pair beat Scotland 21-17, 21-19.
In the Women's Cricket World Cup, England registered their first win in the tournament, defeating India by 4 wickets at Mount Maunganui. Set to score 135 runs for victory in the stipulated 50 overs, England women reached the target in the 32nd over, scoring 136 for 6. Heather Knight scored an unbeaten half-century and Nat Siver made 45. Meghna Singh claimed 3 wickets, while Rajeshwari Gaikwad, Julan Goswami and Pooja Vastrakar bagged 1 wicket each. The Sensex and the Nifty today climbed more than 1.5%. Both domestic key stock indices gained in sync with rise in other Asian share markets. The BSE Sensex closed above 56,800 points, while the NSE Nifty ended above 16,950 level. A report from the Business World.
The Sensex climbed 1,040 points or 1.86% to trade at 56,817. The Nifty was also up 312 points or 1.87% to trade at 16,975. Amongst global markets, shares in Asia Pacific today jumped as Chinese stocks saw a strong rebound following recent heavy losses. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index surged more than 9% after tumbling nearly 6% in the previous session. China's Shanghai Composite Index climbed 3.5%. Singapore's Straits Times was trading 1.7% up. Japan's Nikkei 225 added 1.6% and South Korea's Kospi gained 1.4%. European share markets were also up in intraday trade. Brent crude oil prices today added marginally. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $100.20 per barrel. Back home, gold prices fell 170 rupees at multi-commodity exchange for April contracts. The precious metal was trading at 51,395 rupees per 10 gram, and the rupee today strengthened 34 paise against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 76 rupees and 27 paise per dollar. Valsa Williams for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Let us take a look at the press reports on China. The Global Times reports that India's new ambassador to China, Pradeep Kumar Rawat, assumed office amid welcoming voices and expectations from many Chinese following signs of positive momentum from the recently concluded military talks to resolve border issues between the two countries. Mint writes China's stock rout cost the nation's richest tycoons more than $53 billion on Monday. The slide in Chinese stocks accelerated Monday after U.S. officials said Russia asked Beijing to help with the war in Ukraine, raising concerns about a backlash against Chinese companies, potentially even sanctions. Prasar Bharati Beijing reported that China recorded nearly 5,400 new COVID cases on Tuesday, leading to lockdown of nearly 40 million people in at least 13 cities nationwide. Tibet Press headline reads, Freedom struggle will go on till Tibet finally gets justice. Taiwan News writes that an American general has vowed that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan would elicit a more robust response from the U.S. than the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and said China's actions are pushing the U.S. into forming a NATO of the Pacific. Deutsche Welle reports Taiwan's military tests new capabilities to deter China threat.
Let us take a look at what made the headlines in Nepal. The Week writes that drinking water supply project built with Indian assistance of $347,000 has been inaugurated in Nepal as part of an initiative to celebrate 75 years of independence of India. UNI reports that Nepal's Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba has confirmed that he would be attending the 5th BIMSTEC summit to be held in Sri Lanka from the 30th of March. Khabar Hub writes that as China continues to maintain a no-go zone for a military drill in South China Sea, analysts believe that this could be used to push its claim in the waterway. Let us have some brief news from Bangladesh. The Bangladesh government has decided to extend the suspension of opposition BNP chairperson and former Prime Minister Khaleda Zia's jail sentence by 6 more months, reports Pratham Alo. State Minister for Information and Communication Technology Zunaid Ahmed Palak has said that Bangladesh received Orion investment of over $750 million in the startup sector in a decade, reports Dhaka Tribune. Bangladesh President M. Abdul Hamid has asked the Election Commission and all concerned to discharge its duties impartially with courage, reports BSS. Let us take a look at the press reports on Afghanistan. Tolo News reports that the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan's Ministry of Mines and Petroleum says that talks are underway with the Chinese company over the start of the Logar Mess INR project. The report added that a Chinese delegation will arrive in Kabul by the end of this month. In another report, Tolo News writes that 4 newly released members of a family in Bagman district of Kabul province claim they were tortured by Islamic Emirate forces. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterates that India would continue to stand with friendly people of Sri Lanka. International Court of Justice directs that Russia must immediately suspend its military operations in Ukraine. Council of Europe expels Russia from human rights body over its military operation in Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says business-like spirit is emerging at talks with Ukraine. Powerful earthquake jolts Northeastern Japan, tsunami alert issued. COVID vaccination for children aged 12 to 14 years and precaution dose for people above 60 years of age begins in India. And India wins bid to host Fides Chess Olympia 2022 in Chennai. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav by artists from Hungary. With with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.